Good afternoon, friends. Welcome back for the second session on shipping economics. Uh, I believe it is the second session. Just yesterday, I had just got a clarification that we are going to have the second session today. So, friends, before we start with the session, let me quickly recapitulate what are the important aspects or what are the topics that we discussed in session number one. If you recall, in session number one, uh, in the introductory part, I explained to you what NMIS program is all about. I explained to you what are the subjects you have for your first year, what are the subjects you have for your second year, and what is the learning objectives of this particular 2-year program. Then we went on to start with the discussion or start with the session on shipping economics, which is a first year paper. It is a 75 mark paper because you will have two subjects, shipping economics 75 marks and shipping finance 25 marks. We started with discussing the topic, what is economics, wherein we discussed and we defined economics as a social science which deals with production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Okay, shipping is definitely very important for distribution of the goods worldwide. We went on to discuss the two branches of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Then we discussed what are the commodities that is commonly traded by sea. I told you generally, as per statistics, 90% of the goods in terms of volume and 70% of goods in terms of value is carried by ships. It is carried by sea. We went on to see what are the commodities that is carried by ships, and you very clearly saw the classification: energy trade, agricultural trade, metal trade, other manufactures, forest trade, different type of trade, wherein majority, almost 45% of the seaborne trade is dominated by energy trade, wherein tankers and bulk carriers, tankers mainly carrying petroleum products, and bulk carriers mainly carrying steam coal, that is thermal coal, comes in the family of energy trade. Then we went on to discuss 45% is energy trade, next is metal industry trade, 20 to 25%, and third is the agro trade, agricultural trade, wherein grains and fertilizers are also moved by ships. So these are the three major trades which dominate seaborne trade. Then you have other manufacturers, you have other groups of carrying the goods, which comes under that category. Then we went on to define that shipping is a very volatile, dynamic, and cyclical industry. Of course, what do you mean by shipping market cycles? We will be explaining it in the next class. But this is a feature, it's very dynamic. Dynamic means it is ever changing. The trade is changing, the make of the ship is changing, the trading routes are changing. It is volatile means, as I told you, the freight markets is very, very volatile, very, very fluctuating. It keeps on changing. The earning ability of a ship keeps on changing depending upon the market conditions. Then we went on to discuss that shipping has a very unique feature that many a times the owners, the entrepreneurs who buy ship, they don't flag the ship in their own countries. They go to flag of convenience, FOC, what you call it. Countries like Liberia, Panama, Cyprus, These are all flag of convenience. So if you see, most of the shipping is actually registered in flag of convenience. National tonnage is relatively less. Now, this was the introduction to maritime economics. Then we went on to discuss the first topic, that is demand and supply. We started off by discussing the basic principle of law of demand and the basic principle of law of supply. In economics, how do you define law of demand and how do you define law of supply? Law of demand simply speaks about an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. When price goes up, quantity demanded comes down. When price comes down, quantity demanded goes up. Very simple. And when you plot it in a graph, you get a downward slope, which is called as a demand curve. Law of supply, over here, it establishes a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. When price goes up, quantity supplied increases. When price goes down, quantity supplied reduces, thus establishing a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. When you plot it in a graph, you get an upward curve, which is called as supply curve. So in any economy, any industry, whether it is national economy, whether it is any industry, you will always have these two market forces. What do you call them? Market forces, demand and supply. Of course, both the concepts, law of demand, law of supply, as I told you, these are the principles established under microeconomics on the basis of certain assumptions, and it has certain exceptions. I had briefly touched upon that. Now, in shipping industry also, these two market forces are very, very dominant or very, very prevalent. What are those? One is demand for shipping, another is supply of ships. When the demand for shipping is very high and the supply of ships is less, what will happen to the freight market? Freight market will go up, obviously. Demand for shipping is more and less ships are available to meet this demand. What will happen to the freight market? It will obviously go up, because the owners will dominate the market. They will command the market. They will ask for more freight. When supply of ships is more and demand for shipping is less, what will happen to the freight market? Freight market will be under pressure. Market will come down. So very wisely, you will see most of the shipping companies, big time companies, or the companies which use ships for transportation, they will keep a very close watch on what is the demand situation and what is the supply situation expected in the future, because that will determine their strategies for shipping management. Especially for a ship owner, if he is planning to come with a big investment, he wants to buy some ships, he will definitely see what is the likely freight that is going to exist in the market, because against this capital investment, ship is a capital intensive investment. It is a capital asset. So if you want to buy a ship, you have to source huge funds. Millions of dollars will have to be sourced in, for which you will have to do borrowings from the financial institutions. So you have to do an appropriate project finance. You have to do an appropriate project appraisal. Determine what is the payback period for the investment that you're going to do. And how will you determine what is the payback period? On the basis of your forecast of the future markets. And how can you forecast the future market? You can forecast the future market on the basis of understanding and studying the demand forces and the supply forces. So that is the reason this concept will always shipping Shipping can become as much as dynamic as possible, but the fact is these fundamentals will never change. So it is very important for shipping professionals which influence demand for shipping and what are the factors which influence supply of ships. So when I say what are the factors which influence demand for shipping, I mean the macro factors. So over here, if I recall, we have discussed what are the factors which influence demand for shipping, but we are yet to discuss factors influencing supply of ships. Am I right? Like factors influencing demand for shipping, we had discussed that the world economy is one of the very important factors. Then seaborne trade, the extent of seaborne trade. Definitely, if there is an international trade, the international trade has to translate into a seaborne trade, then only there will be shipping demand. Am I right? If two landlocked countries increase their level of international trade, that will not translate into a seaborne trade, and that actually will not translate into a shipping demand. A very important term we had discussed over here, that was average haul, if you remember. Average haul. What do you mean by average haul? The ton-mile effect, the distance effect on demand for shipping. A very important point. When the ton miles go up, when the distances that the ships travel carrying their tonnage, they go up, they actually boost the demand for shipping. How do they boost the demand for shipping? Because when the ships travel for longer distances with their cargoes, they are deployed for a particular voyage for a longer period of time, thus giving more possibility for the idling ships to look for employment. So that is the reason average haul, distance effect, ton-mile effect is very important for maritime economics. Transportation cost, we had discussed. If there is an increase in transportation cost, definitely the demand for shipping will come down, because when costs go up, logically the freights will also be under pressure, and when freights are under pressure, people will use alternate methods as mode of transportation. Why should they come and take ships? And political factors. So all these points we had discussed in the last class. If I'm correct, we are yet to discuss factors influencing supply of ships. Am I right? That is what I think we have yet to discuss. Am I right?
Yes.
If anybody can confirm to me, or did I discuss factors influencing supply of ships? Did I discuss?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we will be discussing what are the factors which influence supply of ships. It will take me 5 to 10 minutes. Very easy. Number one is the world fleet, ordering of new ships, scrapping of ships, age profile, fleet performance, and operating factors. Okay. Let's look at each of this. Just 1 minute. I'm not getting full page. Yeah. Okay. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
loud and clear.
Okay, good. Okay. Yes, Jayaprakash Jain, you said no, sir. कौन सा सवाल के लिए no, sir बोला मालूम नहीं, but ठीक है, चलो, no problem. Let's look at the world fleet. Now, when you say world fleet, you know, what do you mean by world fleet? Of course, we are talking of merchant fleet over here. Okay, we are not talking of defense fleet. We are doing a course on shipping management. It is commercial shipping management. So we are only going to talk about the merchant fleet. Okay, merchant fleet means the fleet which actually carries goods. Okay, you carry goods from one country to another country. Now, when you study what are the factors which influence the supply of ships, you should not just look at the total number of ships. I'll explain to you. Suppose I'm just giving a hypothetical situation. Somebody tells you, what is the number of merchant ships plying in international trade today? Somebody asks you that question. And say your answer is 1 lakh ships. Okay, I'm not sure about the exact figure. I'm just giving an hypothetical situation. In the year 2021, that is as on August 2021, there are around 1 lakh ships in the world which is trading in the international trade. And by August 2022, this will become 1,10,000. So what does this mean? This means that the supply position is improving. Am I right? 1 lakh to 1,10,000. That is, you can say that there is an increase of 10%. This is one way of knowing the supply situation. But when you say world fleet, you should not just look at the total number of ships. You have to see the composition of the ships. Because let's take two categories of ships. One is the tanker ships, another is the bulk carrier ships. I'm keeping the containers away. Okay, let's keep the tanker ships and let's take the bulk carrier ships. Now in tanker ships, there are different types of tankers. There is medium range tankers, LR1 tankers, LR2 tankers, Aframax tankers, Suezmax tankers, very large crude carriers, VLCCs, and ULCCs, ultra large crude carriers. Okay, almost 7 to 8 categories. Handy tankers are the smallest tankers. 10,000 to 15,000 is the deadweight of the ship. Then you have medium range tankers, around 35 to 45,000 is the deadweight of the ship. Then you have long range one tankers, popularly called as Panamax tankers, around 60 to 70,000 is the deadweight. Then you have, please go on mute. I think somebody has unmute themselves. Now there may be somebody, or there is LR2 tankers whose deadweight is around 75,000 to almost 119,000. Then you have Suezmax tankers, 1,20,000 to almost 1,50,000. You call them Suezmax tankers basically because the Suezmax tankers, in a fully loaded condition, in a fully laden condition, as you call it, it can transit the Suez Canal. Okay, where is Suez Canal? Suez Canal is connecting the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. It is told to be the gateway between east of Suez and west of Suez. Okay, a very important gateway as far as marine traffic is concerned. So Suez maximum, Suez max. Then you have very large crude carriers. These are big ships. 2,50,000 to 3,20,000 is the deadweight of the ship. I showed you some photographs. You remember last class I showed you this, and then you have ultra large crude carriers whose deadweight is more than 3,50,000. In the world today, only 5 or 6 ULCCs are there, and they are generally not sea-going ships. They are predominantly floating storage units. Okay, wherein in some installations, in some oil installations where oil is getting extracted, these are used as floating storage units. Now in bulk carriers, you have mini bulk carriers, handy bulk carriers, handy max, handy size bulk carriers, handy max bulkies. Then you have Supramax bulk carriers, Panamax bulk carriers, Cape size bulk carriers, very large ore carriers. Now there is something called as Kamsara Max bulk carriers, Ultra Max bulk carriers. So many different categories of bulk carriers are there. So when you are looking at a supply situation, you should not look at the world fleet as such. You should look at each composition. I'll tell you why it is important. Now let us take MR tanker. MR tanker's deadweight is around 35,000 to 45,000. What does MR tanker carry? MR tanker carries clean petroleum products. It carries kerosene, diesel. These are the kind of cargoes that it carries. Very large crude carrier, they carry only crude oil. Crude oil is the major component. Both are tankers, One is a small size 45,000 deadweight tanker. Another is 250,000 deadweight tanker. One is carrying clean petroleum products. Another only carries crude oil. So let us say today you are having around, let us say 800 MR tankers, and there are around 650 VLCCs. It is possible that VLCCs supply may be more in the next calendar year, but MR tanker supply may become less. So overall tanker supply may increase, but it is important for you to understand the composition of the fleet. For each component, how is the supply situation? Then only you can have a prudent decisions of where to invest and what to invest and how to calculate the market. So that is the reason when you say for supply of ship, world fleet is very important. It is not just the category, it's not just a total number of world fleet, it is composition of the world ships. Next is ordering of new ships, new building. What you call it as order book. Now you tell me, where are most of the ships getting constructed? You can put it in your chat box.
Korea.
Which Korea? North Korea or South Korea?
South Korea.
South Korea. Okay.
And Japan.
Japan.
China.
Japan, China, very good. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
But now, so Vietnam is also building a new ships.
Vietnam. That way, India is also building.
Europe. Philippines. Now Philippines is coming up quite.
Small size.
Cebu is a shipyard.
Correct. Absolutely. Good, good. So, what you said is right. Mainly, it is the Asian countries which are dominating. As on today, maximum ships are getting constructed in China. Next is South Korea, and third is Japan. Okay, like in 70s and beginning 80s, it was Japan which was dominating. Then you can say mid 80s, 90s, and beginning 2000, it was South Korea which was dominating. Then after 2005 or 2007, China has overtaken Japan as well as South Korea. So these three countries are manufacturing most of the ships. South Korea definitely is always in the race. The numbers are very high. May not be as high as China, but definitely in terms of quality and in terms of pricing, South Korea is quite preferred destination for building ships. Japan is expensive. China is less expensive, but we have few quality challenges. Now, if you see, there are big yards in these countries. Now, in South Korea, if you go, you have so many big yards. You have Daewoo, Hyundai, then you have Mitsubishi in Japan, then you have STX. There are big, big shipyards. These shipyards, if you go into their website, you will see an order book. Order book basically means what ships have been booked with them. Okay. Olden days, construction of a ship was a huge exercise. Once the keel is laid till the final make of the ship, you know, the ship used to take minimum 3 to 4 years to come out of the yard. But now with the introduction of robotics, okay, the time taken for construction of the ship is relatively less. Nowadays, in 18 months to 12 months, you can get the delivery of the ship once the keel is laid. So if you go to these websites, you will very clearly see that they will give an order book. What are the types of ships they are making, for whom they are making, what is the price at which the ships are booked, and what is the expected date of completion. So what does it mean? More order book, that means there is going to be more supply of ships. If there is less order book, what does it mean? There is going to be less supply of ships. So definitely order book is one criteria which has to be seen to know what is the future supply scenario. Scrapping of ships, right? Very simple. Now, which are the countries which are very popular for scrapping?
India, Bangladesh,
India,
Pakistan.
Bangladesh, Pakistan.
Very good, very good. Okay. Again, Asians are dominating over here. the third world nations. India, Alang, you might have all heard, in Gujarat, Gulf of Kutch, near Bhavnagar. It's a very, very popular place for ship scrapping, ship breaking. Okay. Nowadays, we don't use the word ship scrapping, ship breaking. आजकल नया term हम use कर रहे हैं ship recycling. ठीक है? That is the beauty of English, isn't it? Ship recycling. Exercise वही है, ship breaking or ship scrapping ही है. But nowadays we use the word recycling because this scrap actually gets recycled and is used in the steel mills. So India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, these are the countries very popular for ship scrapping. Okay. Definitely, Bangladesh, in terms of number of ships getting scrapped, I think Bangladesh in the calendar year 2020 has overtaken India, because in India, what is happening is India is in a stage of transformation. You know, you cannot say that India is still a very third world nation or still a very underdeveloped nation like Bangladesh or Pakistan. We are on the on the path of recovery economically, and the government under the Make in India regime wanted to get into construction of ships, not breaking of the ships. But at the time, breaking of the ships are also important for the country because a very big workforce was actively involved in ship recycling. So what India has done is India has come with a lot of regulations, like ship recycling bill 2020 has been passed, you know, and we are come with few standards for recycling, because please understand, ship scrapping is a very dirty activity. Okay, it's a laborious activity. A lot of labor is involved in it. And you know, the ships which has run for 20 years, 25 years, it is a toxic material. It is having a lot of toxic material. So the area where it is getting scrapped, it is actually going to adversely affect the beaches, adversely going to affect the environment in that region. That is the reason you will not find ship scrapping happening in the developed countries. Developed countries, the ship scrapping hoga hi nahi. Okay, in the West, only Turkey is one country where some ship scrapping activity is happening. Otherwise, majority of them is happening in Asia. There are ship scrapping yards in developed countries also, but the regulations are so strict. It is so rigid. They have gone into something called as green recycling. So the cost involved in recycling a ship or scrapping a ship itself is huge. So it becomes uneconomical for a ship owner to go ahead for a scrapping. Okay, that is the reason third world countries are dominating. So visibly, more ships get scrapped. What would be the supply situation? Supply situation will come down. Less ships are getting scrapped, that means supply situation will remain intact. Okay, age profile. How does age profile influence the supply situation? I'll tell you. By and large, it is believed that the life of a ship. Yes, Mr. Krishna, tell me.
Why in Africa ship scrapping doesn't happen?
I have no idea. I have no exact. I think in Nigeria there is a ship scrapping yard, and in Dar es Salaam also there is a ship scrapping yard. There is a ship scrapping yard in these two places, but I don't think it is commercially more viable. See, I will tell you, your geographical location is also quite important. Okay, India actually suits that very well. That is one of the technical advantage that India has. A fluctuating tide is a very important factor which is important for a ship recycling, because for an effective beaching to be done, ship has to be beached. You need to have a fluctuating uh, tides. Then only you can do a beaching activity. Every port or every yard cannot become a recycling yard. Okay, but why Africa is not actively involved, frankly, I wouldn't know the answer for it. But to my knowledge, Nigeria and Dar es Salaam, they are having scrapping yards, but not popular internationally. Whether it is due to any conventions or whether it is got to do with the cost, frankly, I will not have an answer to it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Now, coming to the age profile. Generally, it is believed the life of a ship is approximately 25 years. Okay, because how are you calculating this 25 years? I will tell you. International Maritime Organization, they have defined the life of a ship to be 25 years. Means a ship more than 25 years cannot trade in international waters. Okay, this is what International Maritime Organization has defined. So you have to literally say the life of a ship, that is from shipyard after delivery till scrapyard, its life is 25 years. What we call it, from cradle to the grave, it is going to be 25 years. Now, if you look at an age profile, you will exactly know what would be the scrapping scenario of the ship. Like, let us take a category of supramax bulk carriers. If I tell you that almost 10% of the supramax bulk carrier trading in the year 2021 is of 24 years age, what does that mean? It means that this 10% supramax bulk carrier will achieve 25 years in 2022 and they will be put up for scrapping. So more the vintage of the ship determines that these ships are going to get scrapped and the supply situation will come down. So that is the reason. Like if I say all the ships in the what do you say, cape size category, the average age is 18 years. That means the scrapping activity is going to be less. So that means that the supply is going to remain intact. So you have a look at the age profile for a particular category of a ship, you will know what would be the scrapping scenario. Next is a fleet performance. Now this is a little different point, that how does supply get affected? See, the ship will remain at two places. One is either at sea or at port. At port, what the ship will be doing? The ship will be doing a loading and unloading activity. Now, what does an owner want? The owner wants the ship to be more time in sea or more time in port. Suppose you are a ship owner. What would you prefer? You want your ship to be more time in sea or more time in port?
More time in sea.
More time in sea, sir.
Yes, sir. More time in sea.
Yeah, definitely. See, when you say it is in port, means it is also on sea water only. Huh? It's not that you're going to keep it in a showcase in a port. Okay. Port basically means it is in a berthed
Activity.
condition. Okay. It is involved in a loading and unloading activity. Now, why you want the ship to be more time in port and less time in sea, or more time in sea and less time in port? For the simple reason, when the ship is in port, you are incurring huge cost. You have to pay port cost. More time in port would mean that the ship is taking longer time for loading and unloading activity. So every owner would want a quicker turnaround of the ship from the port. He wants the ship to move faster from the port. That ensures that less time for loading, less time for discharge. So there is an old ratio called as seaport ratio. You know, ships used to maintain seaport ratio. How much time in sea, how much time in port. More time in port means that the ship is taking longer time to turn around. It is taking more time for loading, more time for discharge, which is not preferred. Now, if a ship is taking more time for loading, more time for discharge, what does it mean? It is taking longer time to complete the voyage. Longer the time it takes to complete the voyage, less will be the supply of ships in the market. Okay. Now, let me tell you, this point is quite debatable. Why it is debatable? I'll tell you. And you know, olden days, the seaport ratio was very actively seen. In fact, I know if you see the annual reports of shipping companies in the year 1978 or 1980s and all, you see they had a ratio called a seaport ratio, and you see that if the ship has remained more time in sea and less time in port, you can be knowing that the ship's fleet performance is good. So this was a very active methodology. Just 1 second. I'm just getting a call. 1 minute. Yes, Padma. Sorry for the interruption. So seaport ratio to a great extent today doesn't have much sense. Why it does not have much sense, let me tell you. There may be some ships which is doing longer voyages. The ships may be moving from Shanghai to Los Angeles, Shanghai to Long Beach in United States, or maybe from Dalian to Kambai Chance in Canada. They are doing longer voyages. But there may be some set of ships which will be doing coastal voyages. It will be shuttling between one load port to one discharge port quickly. So the ships which are doing shorter voyages, they will have more time at the port than at sea. But the ships which will be actually doing longer voyages will have more time at sea and less time at port. So the seaport ratio wouldn't be an adequate yardstick to measure what has been the fleet performance of the ship. And that is the reason slowly, this concept of seaport ratio is losing its sheen. Today in the industry, nobody talks of a seaport ratio. As long as you make good money, whether you do short voyage or whether you do long voyage, it doesn't make a difference. Okay. So that is the reason I said that while this is one of the yardstick, but this is an outdated yardstick. You hardly use it now. Next is the operating factors. Now, examples given is PSC in Europe. PSC stands for Port State Control. Port State Control in Europe, which is considered to be very strict. Okay, like ships have to sometime undergo inspection from the administration. Like you have PSC. If a ship is going to a foreign country, and in a foreign country, suppose an inspection is done by the local administration over there, you generally call it as a port state control. If the inspection is done in the very country where the ship is registered, you generally call it as a flag state inspection. For example, an Indian flag ship it goes to one of the port. Let's say it goes to Colombo. In Colombo, the administration over there is the local authorities over there, the local maritime administration over there. They are doing an inspection on the ship. It will be called as a port state control. If the same Indian ship, the inspection is done by DG Shipping or Mercantile Marine Department of India, here in India, we will call it as a flag state inspection. Now, this is very important because they will see the list of deficiencies on the ship and they will run a report. So more the deficiency, less will be the tradability of the ship, and less the deficiency, more will be the tradability of the ship. So operating factors are very important. Like PSC inspection in Europe is very, very strict. Another one which I've written over there is USCG inspection, United States Coast Guard inspection. It's a very strong, very strict inspection, especially for oil tankers. Because oil spillage is a catastrophe. It's a very big event because environmentally it can really disturb the geographical area in that particular, wherever the spillage has happened. So US is very particular about it. You might have heard of a very famous oil pollution incident called as Exxon Valdez in 1989. Please mute yourself. Please mute. Yeah. Please, all of you are requested to please mute. Please mute, please. Okay. Now, as I was telling, Exxon Valdez in 1989, it had a very, very major spillage. Okay, it was a tanker ship. After that came the OPA Act, Oil Pollution Act 1990 in United States. Okay, you will be learning it in current shipping environment. It's a very important act. Any tanker which is actually going to United States, it should have an oil spill insurance cover to an extent of $1 billion. Okay, that is the amount of insurance you should have if you're taking a tanker ship to United States. So when the operating factors become strict, definitely the supply in that particular area will go down. I will give you one practical example. You know, this was somewhere in, if I'm correct, 2010, you know, 2009, 2010. You know, lot of grain loaders, lot of bulk carriers used to go to Australia to load wheat. Wheat used to be loaded from Australia, and it used to go to different parts of the world. Now, the bulk carriers which were going to Australia, they were inspected very severely. What used to happen is that the ship is entered the Australian Channel, then you will find a chopper coming over the ship. Okay, वो chopper के ऊपर लिखा होगा, वो helicopter के ऊपर लिखा होगा AMSA, AMSA, Australian Maritime Safety Agency. Okay, उनका helicopter हुआ करता था. The chopper में you will find some inspector sitting, and he'll be sitting with a binoculars. He will be looking at the deck of the ship and all. Let us say that ship goes to the port, the Australian port, Dampier or Brisbane or Sydney, whichever port. It goes there and it goes to the anchorage. The master anchors the ship and he tells the pilot, please come on board and take the ship to the berth. The pilot may say that, sorry, we have done an AMSA inspection and your ship is rejected. Why your ship is rejected? Because you come here to load grain and we don't find your cargo holds are suitable or your deck is suitable to load grain. Like Indian ships में problem होता था cockroaches. कोई भी Asian ships होगा cockroaches. You will say, they will say that we are finding lot of cockroaches in your ships, so that is the reason your ship is not suitable for grain loading. Indian ships without cockroach, is it possible? And that too going to load grain, is it possible? So there used to be a lot of challenges. Invariably, ships going to Australia, especially if it is an Asian ship, they used to get rejected for loading grain. Now you look at a situation wherein the ship is all the way ballasting. Ballasting means coming empty. It is maybe coming empty from China, or it may be coming empty from India, or it may be coming empty from Africa or America. So many days the ship has ballasted and it is coming to load grain. And 2009, the market had collapsed substantially. Literally, for negligible freight, the ships were getting fixed. The ship is going there, it is waiting in anchorage, and you are rejected from loading the cargo. Now, what is the option you have? The only option you have is that take the ship somewhere else. Get paid for it? Not at all. Because any fixture that you are doing, one of the mandatory conditions is that the ship should clear the pre-arrival inspection. Now, over here, AMSA, without boarding the ship, just on the basis of an chopper surveillance, has rejected your ship. And you don't have a possibility of getting a next cargo. On the next cargo, either you have to load dirty cargo like coal or iron ore, and for that purpose, sometime you had 30 to 35 days waiting. Who is going to bear all this cost? Now, what happened because of this? Because of this, you could visibly see that owners started quoting differential freight for grain loading. I have to fix a ship loading from Australia. I will say $8 for loading iron ore, $8 for loading coal, but $12 for loading grain. Why? Because there is a risk of rejection. So I will definitely start commanding premium from the party, from the shipper. This started becoming a norm in Australia. And what was the reason? The reason was a strict operating factor. Number of ships going to Australia, the supply of ships going to Australia reduced only for loading grain. Eventually, AMSA also got the sense, because a trader community in traders lobby in Australia started putting pressure on AMSA that don't have very strict condition. So what AMSA used to do, if they find the ship is not adequate, it used to say that, okay, go to the anchorage, do the hot water cleaning, dry up your cargo holds, then come and then start loading the grain cargo. So invariably 2 days extra time the ships have to spend for cleaning and fumigation of the ship and then start loading grain. So sometimes operating factors also influence the supply of ships in a particular area. Okay. So these are the factors in great detail I have explained. Any doubts, any contribution? Anybody would like to say anything? Is the topic demand and supply very well
Age
understood?
profile.
One question, the order book goes up, the order book goes up, supply also goes up, so I just wanted to confirm that. You had said the order book goes up, then the supply goes up or it goes down, sir?
No. What will happen? You tell me. More ships are getting ordered.
So the supply definitely goes up.
Definitely it will go up. No, it will go up depending upon the expected date of completion.
Sir,
Okay.
can you repeat the operation factor again, sir?
Operating factor.
Yes. Can you
Operating
repeat, please?
What do you want me to repeat in that?
Like the
I'll tell you very simply. Operating factors just say that what is the rigidity you have in a region for operating the ship. You have a strict port state control. You have strict regulations. What will happen? Will the supply in that area go up or supply in that area go down? You tell me.
Sir, age profile.
Sorry,
Age profile, sir. How age profile affects supply?
I cannot hear you. It's very
Age
simple.
supply. Age supply.
It is
Age
less
profile.
supply. Like I can't hear you. I'm sorry. You are not at all audible. But operating factor simply says that if there is rigidity in a particular area, okay, rigidity means there are stricter regulations for shipping to easily happen in that area, then less number of ships will be inclined to go there. When less number of ships are inclined to go there, then definitely supply to that particular area will come down. Now, have you understood?
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
I just want to clarify one thing. This new building, as you have said, there's mostly China, Korea, and Japan take place. But the earlier the ship was supposed to build in Norway and Denmark also, right?
Yeah, Norway, Denmark, Spain.
Yeah.
Norway, Denmark, Spain, most of the Scandinavian nations.
Okay.
Because, one thing you should appreciate, still most of the main engines are coming from Germany.
Germany and Denmark.
Then
That man. Yeah.
Wärtsilä, MAN, or Rolls-Royce, all
Rolls-Royce.
that
Yeah.
typically is either French, German, or Danish also. Yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
these are the countries, and most of the Scandinavian countries was very active in shipbuilding. Great Britain was very active in shipbuilding.
Yes, sir.
But that all has gone now. Now it is dominated by the Asian giants.
Because of its, I mean, like maintain like the
Space.
building.
Space.
Because of space.
One of the
or
major
because of
factor is space, and
or
second thing is the shipbuilding.
cost
Definitely,
effective.
again the labor. It involves huge labor intensity. How
Okay.
much you need still. Though the robotics are extensively used in Japan and all, still you need labor, and labor in European countries are very, very expensive.
Okay.
So this is one of the reason that visibly you will see that the space factors, and then what is the encouragement you get from the government? See,
Okay.
you should understand that most of the shipyards, ports in the European countries and all, they are very closely associated to the residential areas.
Okay.
Are you getting my point? Now, this
Yes,
is one
sir.
of the major challenge that is there. When they are very close to the residential area, you will find that there is more regulations. There is more
Yeah.
stricter norms.
Norms.
Stricter norms on your carbonization, stricter norms on the decibel level, that is a sound that the ships can make. All that regulations comes into play. So this dissuades the developed countries to go for an extensive construction. So simply put it is very simple. The cost of the ship is much lesser in Asian countries than in European countries. See, it's not that ships are not getting built there. Even today, a lot of ships are getting built in America.
Okay.
Okay, they're getting built in America. It's a fact.
Okay.
Lot of coastal ships in America are built in America only because
Okay.
they enjoy something called as a Jones Act, a benefit of a Jones Act. A ship built in America, trading in America, they will have a preferential treatment than a foreign ship.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens is that the owner may decide I will build in America. I may pay 3 times the price what I'm getting it in international market, but the advantage I will have is that I will make the money because of an higher freight, because I have an advantage of trading in America.
Okay.
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 Yeah. Okay, friends. I hope there is no other question.
Sir,
Shall I get on to the next topic?
sir, hello, sir.
Yeah. Tell me. Tell me.
Sir, there are many types of inspections like AMSA, USCG. So, India, I think, what type of inspections are ranging?
India, may you do port state control, no? Your MMD, your DG shipping, they do port state control over here.
Okay, only this.
Yeah, absolutely. These are all port state control only.
Okay, sir.
Okay. In India also, we are having inspections. There are different types of inspection. If you go to the MMD site, you can see different type of inspection for different types of cargoes, different inspections prior coming for scrapping. All this is happening in India also.
Okay, sir. Got it.
But sir, this inspection sir, is as good as like AMSA and USCG?
No,
Or not much?
the checklist in these developed nations are little more rigid.
Okay.
AMSA is very strict mainly because of the Workers' Federation in Australia. Workers' Federation in Australia is very, very strict. Okay. And an inappropriate ship, a ship which increases the fatigue of the Australian workers, if that has been given a permission to come into Australia, there can be a lot of challenges. So that is the reason the Australian Maritime Safety Agency's checklist is relatively little more difficult than the standard checklist in other maritime countries. Okay. Right. So now, friends, let's get on to the topic for today, and a very, very interesting topic and very, very important topic, that is cost and revenue. Now, as all of you know, any business runs on these two elements. Am I right? Cost and revenue. Any businessman, what will he try? He will try to minimize his cost and he will try to maximize his revenue, because that is where his profit lies. So in shipping also, there are set of costs and there are streams of revenue. And this topic will actually give you a macro view of what are the costs and what are the revenue in shipping. And this is important not only from the perspective of shipping economics or maritime economics. It is very important for you to even understand the basic commercial shipping management, because these two are the major pillars. And that is the reason in the last class I said this is a very important topic. Please don't miss it. Now, before I start with the topic on cost and revenue, let me just learn from you. What do you think are the costs in shipping? आप लोगों को क्या लग रहा है, क्या होना चाहिए the costs in shipping? You can put it in the chat box. You can tell me whatever the way you want.
Ship maintenance costs.
Maintenance cost. Yes, that is definitely a major cost in shipping. You need to maintain it technically. So there are technical costs.
Crew salary.
Crew salary is a major cost for a ship owner. Absolutely right.
Insurance.
Fuel,
Operating
bunker,
Bunker cost.
Bunker cost, fuel cost, bunker cost, both are the same.
Port charges.
Port charges, a very major cost. Absolutely.
Registration of the ship. Freight, sir.
Registration of the ship, very correct. When you build a ship, you need to register it. Registration charges are there.
Insurance.
Legal charges.
Yes, I can see regulatory charges.
Inspection charges.
Inspection charges. You appoint surveyors, then the surveyors charge you. I can see somebody has written
Demurrage and holders.
Sorry,
Damage on holdage, damages and holdage charges.
demurrage.
Damages and holdage. Some ships are hold for a few months and few days, or one specific port or specific
Okay,
point.
that is a
Tension.
part of your
But,
regulatory charges.
but sir, damage maybe is revenue for someone. Na?
Delivery timeline.
Damage, sir, is a liability. It's a liability. You have to pay that. Since it's your choice. If the ship stays longer or leaves early, then it's a
Off-hire charges.
Crew handling and
Don't get demurrage. Demurrage is not a cost for ship owner. Demurrage is a revenue stream. Okay, it is a compensation paid to the ship owner for the detention of the ship beyond the lay time. That is demurrage.
Sir, whole clearing charges.
I can see somebody has written hold cleaning charges, terminal handling charges. Somebody has rightly written P&I charges, wreck removal charges, license करके लिखा है किसी ने, low sulfur surcharge charges. Perfect. Again, a part of your fuel cost. Yes. What else?
crew, sir.
Ship crew charges है.
Obviously, they fees.
Huh? Crew charges hai.
Crew salaries.
Crew salary charges hai.
Yeah,
Okay,
basically.
be specific.
Man,
Crew is not your charges.
manning
Charges, same crew charges. Port charges, war risk surcharge. Okay, what else?
Off-hire. It's a loss.
Yes, AWRP.
Off-hire.
some things
Off-hire is a charge, is a cost. Insurance cost. Okay.
AWRP.
AWRP, additional war risk premium. Chemical charges. मेरे को सच में समझ में नहीं आया. Maybe something applicable in some specific markets, but generally doesn't come as a part of your generic costs. Freshwater charges.
Lube
Absolutely
oils,
right.
Ship waiting.
spares and lube oils.
Spares and lube oils. Perfect. See, most of you have told me most of the costs. Okay, majority of the costs have been enlisted in the chat box or you have narrated to me. Perfect. Now, before
canal
we
charges,
discuss-
canal transit charges.
Canal transit charges, very good, absolutely. Like port charges, when you are transiting Suez Canal or Panama Canal, you have to pay charges. Loading and unloading charges, palletization, fumigation, fees,
Pilotage.
absolutely, mooring charges. Perfect. We can stop at it. Now, there are so many costs. Some of you are associated with the shipping fraternity, so you have told me so many possible costs. Majority of the cost I knew, some were exceptional. It is new to me also. Okay. Now, before we get on to discuss what are the costs in shipping and what is revenue in shipping, let us understand how does shipping market operate. Now, what do you mean? I use the word shipping market. Okay, I called it a market. Now, what is a market? Please mute yourself. Please mute. All the candidates, please request to mute. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Now, why did I call it a market? A market is a place where there is a buyer and there is a seller. Buyer buys goods from the seller against a price. So like that in shipping also there is a market. And this market is called as the charter market. What is it called as? Charter market. Now, why do you use the word charter market? Charter basically simply means hire. Charter means hire. Now, suppose there is somebody who wants to transport goods from one port to another port. What will he do? Will he go and buy a ship or will he go and hire a ship? Definitely, he will go and hire a ship. Am I right? He has a one-off movement of taking goods from port A to port B. He will go somewhere, hire a ship, move the goods, pay the transporter the freight. That is what he's going to do. So majority of the business in shipping happens by way of taking the ship on charter or taking it on hire. And that is the reason you say shipping market is a charter market. Now, in the charter market, there are mainly three players. There are mainly three players, three actors. Who are the three players? Number one is a ship owner. Who is a ship owner? Ship owner is a person who owns the ship. Am I right? Or who owns the space in the ship. Then you have the party three, who is the charterer. Who is he? Charterer. Charterer is a person who goes and hires the ship from the ship owner. And the third person, who is equally important, is the ship broker, the intermediary, the middleman acting in between ship owner and charterer. And what is his interest in the trade? His interest in the trade is to earn the brokerage. So these three are the most important players or most important actors in the charter market. Ship owner, charterer, and the broker. Ship owner, all of you have understood. I need not elaborate. A company like Shipping Corporation of India, Great Eastern Shipping Company, we are all ship owners, right? We own ships. We give it on charter to different charterers. They operate the ship, they use the ship, they use the space in the ship, and we earn our revenue out of it. Broker. Now, when you say ship broker, you know, don't misunderstand it or don't compare it with a real estate broker. This broker, ship broker है, ये मानिक चंद खाता होगा, ये तो दलाल है, ये छोटा छोटा पैसे के लिए काम करता है, ये झूठ बोलता है. हालांकि ship brokers भी झूठ बोलता है, but by and large you should realize that these are professional entities. They are having set of commercial professionals who are well versed with the contract terms and conditions. Because if you are well versed with the commercial contract terms and conditions, then only you can crack a deal between ship owner and charterer. And their presence is extremely active in the charter market. As per a report given by ASBA, what is ASBA? Association of Ship Brokers and Agents. As per their report, more than 84% of the fixtures, 84% of the fixtures means 84% of the contracts that is concluded in the charter market is through a broker, is through an registered broker. So there are many broking firms. Like in India, there are many broking shops. But internationally, if you see, there are broking companies like Clarksons, ACM, Bremer Seascope, SSY, Galbraiths, you know, Plato. They are all very big time shipbroking companies. They have research departments. They have R&D departments. And what do this R&D department do? The R&D department, they forecast the market. They study the market. They see the supply situation, demand situation. They see how the global economy is, how the trading is going on, what is the international political scenario, and then they draw up how the trade is going to happen, which is the right place for investment, how do they foresee the market, how do they forecast the market. A lot of activities happen in the research department. So big time broking companies are huge in structure, and they contribute quite a lot in concluding a fixture between a ship owner and a charterer. Now, who is a charterer, by the way? The person who hires the ship, as I told you. But who is he? Can anybody suggest? Who is he?
Shipping line. Shipping line.
It may be direct the party. It may be a third party which taken the from broker side and ship on to broker side and then he supply.
It can be a trader or the buyer seller, one of those, depending on.
Absolutely. See, somebody has said it rightly. A charterer, he may be a trader, or he may be a buyer, or he may be a seller. Okay. Any other views? Who is a charterer?
Charterers are
Who wants to hire the ship or
charterers are
space
also
in the
called
ship?
disponent owners.
Charterer may be a, what did you say? Charterer may be a disponent owner. Okay. Charterer may be a disponent owner.
Cargo.
Charterer is the owner of the cargo. Did I hear that?
He might want to hire the space in the ship. That he is a charterer, so he might be the buyer of the cargo, or he might be the seller of the cargo.
Absolutely.
But still, if the seller wants to buy, I mean, that is in Incoterms, sir, how they do it.
As per Incoterms, you will determine who is the charterer. Incoterms is the international commercial terms, whether it is an FOB shipment or whether it is a CIF shipment. Okay, good, very good. Okay, I will do one small exercise. Okay, I need some names over here, then only I can do this exercise. 1 minute. Okay, I can see one name, Athira Ramachandran, of course. I can see Shahid Ansari. I can see one more name. 1 minute. Ansari. I can see Gopinath Narayan. I can see Nishi Gupta. Okay, let me write the names. Let us define who is a charterer. It is worth the time. Okay. There is Athira. There is Shahid. There is Gopinath. And there is Nishi. And let us say there is Dinesh Kutty. Chalo. The easy name to remember. Dinesh. Okay. Now, let us say, let me start with Athira. Okay, Athira Ramachandran. Now, let us say Athira Ramachandran, she is basically a steel manufacturer. Okay, listen to this case study very carefully. You will understand who is a charterer. She is a, let us say, a steel manufacturer who is having a steel factory. Her steel factory, let us say it is in Gujarat. All development is happening there. So we will also confine to Gujarat. So she is having a steel factory somewhere near Vadinar in Gujarat. And she is in urgent need of some iron ore cargo, which she buys it, let us say, from Shahid, who is based in Australia. Okay. Now, Shahid Ansari is one of the shipper or one of the exporter. As somebody said, he's one of the seller of the cargo sitting in Australia. And Athira Ramachandran is sitting in Vadinar, and he's willing to buy the cargo from Shahid. She enters into a contract with Shahid for transportation of 55,000 tons of iron ore, loading from, let us say, Dampier in Australia for discharge at Mundra or discharge at Mundra in Gujarat. Okay. Cargo has to be loaded from Dampier in Australia. Discharge has to be done at Mundra in West Coast India, Gujarat. The buyer of the cargo is Athira, and the discharge or that is buyer and the seller of the cargo is Shahid Ansari. Now, Athira doesn't know what is shipping all about. Okay, she is absolutely new to shipping. उसको shipping मालूम नहीं है. उसको सिर्फ shipping manufacturing मालूम है. Steel manufacturing मालूम है. So she approaches Mr. Gopinath. Gopinath is basically an agent. He's a broker. Okay, who does lot of fixtures in shipping. So she tells her friend Gopinath, I have 55,000 tons of iron ore to be loaded from Dampier The loading has to be done, let us say by 5th, let us say by 20th of August. Well, let's assume the date which is over, 20th of August, and it has to be discharged at Mundra. Gopinath tells Adira, you don't worry. I will handle this shipment completely. You just relax. You just get everything ready for your steel mill to run. The 55,000 iron ore will reach to you. 20th August, we will load the cargo. In 18 days, it will reach Mundra. You get ready to take the delivery of the cargo. Fine. Then Gopinath, he starts looking for ship in the market. Okay. And he finds there is a ship owner, Nishi. Nishi has a ship. She has a Supramax bulk carrier, which is getting free somewhere in Australia around 18th of August. This ship can easily position at Dampier on 20th of August, load the 55,000 tons of iron ore and take it to Mundra. Gopinath approaches Nishi, tells Nishi, I have a beautiful consignment for your ship. Your ship is unnecessarily stuck in Australia. You load a nice cargo. You can load 55,000 tons of iron ore from Dampier, take it to Mundra, discharge the cargo, earn a good freight. Okay. And after discharge at Mundra, you're opening in West Coast India, you have several options. You can go to Goa and load your next parcel of iron ore. Or from Mundra, just 3 days away, you can go to Arabian Gulf and load fertilizer, can load grain. So much of activities you can do. You can load tiles, you can load marble. So much of options are available with you. So you please don't miss this cargo. And convincing Nishi, Gopinath and Nishi enter into a contract. Nishi is the ship owner, and they have identified a ship, a Supramax bulk carrier, to load from Dampier for discharge in Mundra. As promised, on 20th, before 20th only, Nishi positions her Supramax bulk carrier at Dampier. On 20th August, the cargo is supplied by the shipper Shahid. 55,000 tons of cargo is loaded onto the ship. You people are with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just understand how the market operates. Okay. 55,000 tons of iron ore is loaded. And before the ship leaves the port of Dampier, the bills of lading is given to the master of the ship. That it is given to Nishi's master, Nishi's captain. The bills of lading says 55,000 tons of iron ore, load port Dampier, discharge port Mundra, shipper is Shahid Ansari, receiver, consignee of the cargo is Adira Ramachandran, or to the order of Adira Ramachandran. That's the way it will be presented, and the bills of lading is also issued. Now when the cargo is, now the ship is on her way to the discharge port. Where is the ship moving? It is going towards the discharge port. When the ship is moving towards the discharge port, another party, I can see a name, Chintu Patro. Okay, I can see a name over here, Chintu Patro. Okay, and gentleman by the name Chintu, he approaches Adira. He tells Adira, I have seen that you have loaded a cargo of Shahid Ansari. The ship is moving. She has loaded cargo from Dampier. It is on the way to Mundra. Adira, I am in urgent need of this cargo. You do one thing, you sell this cargo to me. I will take the delivery of the cargo. So Chintu Patro has approached whom? He has approached Adira because she is the ultimate receiver of the cargo. She is the buyer of the cargo. He approaches the buyer that you sell the goods to me and I will take the delivery. Adira tells him, fine, I will sell the cargo, but you have to pay me 10% more than what I have paid to Shahid Ansari. So Chintu Patro says that no problem. I am in urgent need of the cargo. I will buy that cargo from you and the cargo is sold to Chintu Patro. In shipping, what you call it as high sea sales. So now the ship is on her way to discharge cargo at Mundra. It is almost reached, covered 50% distance. After covering 50% distance, another gentleman, I can see a name, Swapnil. Swapnil approaches Chintu Patro. He tells Chintu Patro that the cargo that you have bought from Adira, I am in need of that cargo. You somehow tried to sell that cargo to me. I will pay you 5% more than what you have paid to Adhira Ramachandran. Chintu is very smart. He immediately sells the cargo to Swapnil. Now the ship has reached the port of Mundra. At Mundra port, the cargo is discharged. And who is the receiver of the cargo? The receiver of the cargo is Swapnil. And as far as Nishi, the owner, is concerned, she can direct the ship to discharge the cargo to Swapnil, because the bills of lading says the cargo to be discharged to Adhira Ramachandran or to the order of Adhira Ramachandran. So now the order of Adhira Ramachandran has changed to Swapnil. So the cargo is being now sold to Swapnil. The cargo is discharged, and after discharge of cargo, what is the next thing? Nishi, the owner of the ship, has to get the freight. Am I right? All of you agree?
Yes,
The
sir.
ship has loaded cargo from Dampier and it has discharged at Mundra. 2 times high sea sales have happened. The cargo now stands discharged at Mundra to the ultimate receiver of the cargo, Swapnil. Now, Nishi has to get the freight. So my question is, who will pay the freight to Nishi?
Gopinandan. Mr. Gopinandan from Australia.
Gopinath.
First buyer.
Athira, sir. Athira, who hired the
Athira paid to Nishi. Sorry.
Adhira pay to
The first
Gopinath
buyer-
and Gopinath pay to.
The first buyer will
Okay.
pay the freight.
So now quickly, if I have to quickly analyze the situation, the situation is you are having Athira, who is the buyer of the cargo. I will use the word first buyer of the cargo. You are having Shahid Ansari, who is the shipper of the cargo. Athira is actually the consignee of the cargo. The correct word is consignee. Shahid, who is the shipper of the cargo. Gopinath, who is the agent. Nishi, who is the ship owner. Chintu, who is the second buyer of the cargo. And Swapnil, who is the third buyer of the cargo. Am I right? All of you agree with me with this definition?
Yes, sir.
Whatever I have said, all of you agree with me.
Yes, sir.
Abhi Nishi Gupta, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा तेरे को किससे चाहिए freight?
Sir, मुझे
गोपीनाथ से चाहिए.
have to get it from other.
You want to get it from everybody? What did you say?
No, not from everybody.
Ah.
But from Gopinath and take the leads.
You think you will have to get it from? I can't hear you.
Gopinath.
From Gopinath. Okay. Okay. I will put it. I
from
will put it
Gopinath,
as
yes,
a. I
sir.
will put it as a KBC question. How many of you feel the freight has to be paid by the consignee, Athira Ramachandran? Just type yes, yes, yes in the chat box quickly. How many of you feel the freight has to be paid by Athira Ramachandran? Okay, no mat dalo, sirf yes hi dalo bhai. Okay. Oh. Okay. How many of you feel the freight has to be paid by the broker Gopinath? Chintu Patro says yes, Gopinath. Devender Singh, Swapnil, yes. Sheikh Mohammed Ali, yes. Deepika, yes. Omkar Trivedi, Jalwant, Nishi Gupta. Nishi Gupta also says yes. Very good. The owner wants from Gopinath only. Dalal se chahiye usko freight. Akhil Srinivasan, Sajal Kumar. Very good. Very good. Okay. Next. How many of you feel the freight has to be paid by Chintu Patro? Chintu Patro, I'm sorry. Chintu Patro, the second buyer. Sangeet Narayan repeatedly is telling, depends on Incoterm. Don't waste our time. You have not defined the case study properly. Define the Incoterm. What is the Incoterm? Incoterm is FOB term, my friend. If Adira has made the arrangement for the shipping, then it is definitely an FOB term. I have not thought Incoterm, so I thought might as well not discuss that. Okay, Chintu ke liye people are saying yes. Rakesh is saying yes. Anthony, Mahesh Sangha, very good. How many of you say the ultimate receiver of the cargo, Swapnil, has to actually pay the freight? Only one person says the ultimate receiver, the ultimate beneficiary of the receipt of the cargo has to pay. Okay, fine. Good. So everybody somehow have different views. I have 128 candidates. Around 40 candidates have actually given some of the other answer. Means they have taken a stand. Majority is saying that don't know. Kisko pay karna hai, karne do, mere ko kya hai. Am I right? That is the view. Or some are of the view that answer jaldi bol, kyun time pass kar raha hai. That is the general view most of you are having. So now, friends, the key thing, what I wanted to emphasize, okay, because I have seen even in very big forums, people defining charterer incorrectly. And that is the reason I said that let me make it very clear who is a charterer. In this entire exercise, we have to identify who is a charterer. Once we identify who is a charterer, he is the person who has to pay the freight to the ship owner. You have a situation where there is a shipper, there is a buyer, there is a seller, there is an intermediate buyer of the cargo and ultimate receiver of the cargo. But over here, as some of you rightly said, the freight is actually to be paid by the agent, that is the broker. Why the freight has to be paid by the broker over here? You have to see with whom did the owner Nishi enter into a contract. Did Nishi enter into a contract with Adira Ramachandran? No. Did Nishi enter into a contract with Chintu, with Swapnil? No. With whom did she enter into a contract? The ship owner entered into a contract with an agent, Gopinath. So, who is a charterer? Charterer is a person who enters into a valid contract for transportation of goods by sea with a ship owner. Charterer is a person who enters into a valid contract for transportation of lawful merchandise by sea. He is a charterer. So, the contract between Athira Ramachandran and Shahid was an EXIM contract. It was a contract of sale wherein goods were actually getting sold. But the shipping contract was actually entered between Nishi and it was entered between Gopinath. Nishi's role as a ship owner was to load the cargo in time and deliver the cargo in time. And Gopinath's obligation under that voyage contract is to pay the freight once the cargo is fully discharged. So now who is a charterer? A charterer can be a shipper, charterer can be a supplier, charterer can be a consigner. Charterer can be a consignee, receiver of cargo. Charterer can be a trader, charterer can be a speculator, charterer can even be by an arbitrage trader. Charterer can also be an agent or a broker. He is the person who has entered into a valid contract with the ship owner for transportation of goods, and he has interest in the transportation of goods. Now, what is the interest Gopinath has in the transportation of goods? He is going to earn his agency fees, or he's going to earn his brokerage commission from Adira Ramchandran. So he's having an interest in the transportation of goods, and that is the reason he has entered into a contract. Okay. Nishi has decided that she, as a ship owner, she has full confidence in the credibility of a broker, and she has gone ahead signing a voyage contract with the broker. That's the owner's call. But as far as this case study is concerned, it's a case where the charterer is actually an agent. So please remember, charterer is a person who enters into a valid contract. I have seen in very, very big forums also people saying the charterer is actually a ship owner. If it is an FOB shipment, then it is generally the receiver who is the charterer. If it is a CIF shipment, it is a shipper who is a charterer, which is more or less right. 90% you are right. But in that 10%, there may be a third party who is entering into a contract with the ship owner, or who may be doing the shipping arrangements for somebody else. So you need to identify who is the charterer. Okay.
So ultimately, the charter is that guy whose contract between contract to liner.
I couldn't understand your question.
Just a word, I type it.
So finally, charterer is the person who pays the freight to the owner.
Charterer, he is obligated. He is not the person. He is obligated to pay. When somebody doesn't have a valid contract with the shop owner, how is he obligated to pay, my friend? Swapnil, I cannot explain house bill of lading and all over here. That is not, I will be completely divulging from the very subject that I am discussing. The case study which I was giving was predominantly for a tramp trade. Don't get confused with a liner trade over here. What I was talking was from a tramp trade perspective. I gave an example for a bulk carrier, which cyclostyles with case of a tankers also, which cyclostyles in case of a gas carrier also. In case of an container ship, it's a completely different ball game, because in a container ship you are having slots. In a container ship, multiple containers are getting loaded, multiple consignees are there, multiple shippers are there. In one particular container itself, you can have multiple shippers if it is an LCL shipment. Okay. So over there, you generally don't use the word charterer, ship owner and all. You use it if the ship is put on time charter. Okay. Over there, it is generally the shipper, the receiver, the consignee. That's the way it is being defined. The example what I was trying to explain over here you about the charter market was predominantly from a tramp trade point of view. So don't get confused by using the word house bills of lading, switched bills of lading, second set bills of lading. No, this is a simple consignment, straightforward approach wherein goods are loaded, bills of lading is in order, and bills of lading gets executed once the cargo is discharged. Okay. So friends, I hope you have understood the definition of who is a broker, who is a ship owner, and who is a charterer. Now we will get on to discuss what are the types of charter. Okay. Once you understand what are the types of charter, then we can quickly understand how is the cost apportioned between a ship owner and a charterer. But before that, it's already 3:43. I think we will take a small break now. We will take a 10 minutes break. Is that good enough?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And we'll just take a 10 minutes coffee break, and we should definitely assemble maybe by 3:55, and we will discuss what are the types of charter and how is the cost apportioned for the different types of charter. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Irfan, I'm just signing off for 10 minutes. I will join back after 10 minutes.
No, sir. Thank you.
So one thing.
Yeah, tell me.
So you know Captain Philip Matthew?
Yeah, I know him. I know him very
Okay,
well.
I met him 2 days back. He told me to like ask you like how you doing.
Okay. Please convey my regards to him. I will message him today.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. Cost and
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you said the definition of ship owners are as one who owns the ship or one who owns the space in the ship, sir. So can you, sir, give any example of that owning space in the ship?
It is again from the perspective of a slot sharing arrangements, which sometimes you have in shipping. In shipping, what happens is that the ships may have many slots to fill. And let us say it's having 4,000 slots. Of this 4,000 slots, sometimes 1,000 slots may be for a particular owner and other 3,000 slots may be of another owner.
Okay, so this will be a permanent arrangement, right?
No, that again depends on what is the vessel sharing and the slot sharing arrangement both the companies are having.
Thanks.
So can we proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So friends, as we were discussing, there are mainly three players or three actors in the charter market: the ship owner, the ship broker, and the charterer. And we have very clearly defined ship owner is pretty easy, broker is quite easy to identify. Charter, sometimes there's a little confusion. As I said, there are different definitions given. Some say he's a cargo owner, some say he's a buyer, some say he's a seller. So now it's amply clear that ship broker or charterer is a person who enters into a lawful agreement with the ship owner for transportation of goods. Now let's look at what are the types of charter. What are the methods of employing a ship and what are the different types of a charter? There are mainly two types of a charter. One is called as a non-demise charter and another is called as a demise charter. What are the two ones? Non-demise charter and a demise charter. Under the category of non-demise charter, you are having two forms of charters. One is called as time or period charter and another is voyage charter. And under demise charter, you have a form of charter called as bareboat charter. Okay, BBC, what you call it, bareboat charter. Now let's understand each of this. I hope all of you have come across these terms, especially those who are in shipping. What
Yes,
you
sir.
mean by voyage charter, what you mean by time charter, what you mean by bareboat charter. Okay, come on, I'll give you a chance. Come on, tell me what you think. What do you understand by the term voyage charter?
The
A
vessel is
particular
on
voyage.
ISRC
For a particular
Just
voyage.
is a short time just for one voyage.
One at a time.
For a particular voyage, starting for a particular voyage.
For a particular voyage only. Okay. And what do you mean is a time charter?
A particular period of time.
The ship's employment is for a particular period of time. Okay. And bareboat charter?
For long term. Basically, the charter becomes kind of owner, not complete owner, but kind of owner for that duration.
He's a kind of owner for the duration of the ship. Okay. And it is generally for a long period of time. Very good. Very good. Okay, Gaurav has said load port to discharge port. That means under a voyage charter, the ship is employed from load port to discharge port. Yeah, correct. More of what all of you have answered is correct. I will explain it little more organically. Now let's take the first case, voyage charter. I will take voyage charter as first. Under a voyage charter, the ship is employed for a voyage, for a specific voyage. What do you mean by specific voyage? The ship may be employed for loading the cargo from load port and discharging the cargo at discharge port. Of course, that is not the definition of a voyage, but when I'm doing voyage accounts, I will give a little more detail about the term voyage charter. The deployment of the ship is for a specific set of goods that needs to be loaded and it has to be discharged at a particular port. Once the ship is discharged, the shipowner is entitled for his freight. Once the freight is realized, the contract between the shipowner and the charterer end. In all this form of charter, there is a contract between the two parties. Who are the two parties? The shipowner and the charterer. इन दोनों के बीच में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होने वाला है. और वॉयज चार्टर में आप जहाज को सिर्फ एक लोड पोर्ट से डिस्चार्ज पोर्ट तक के लिए जहाज को फिक्स करते हो. समझ लीजिए जो एग्जांपल मैंने लिया था, wherein the ship had to load cargo, wherein Gopinath was a charterer and Nishi was the ship owner. They entered into a contract for loading cargo from load port Dampier for discharge at Mundra. This is what was the arrangement that they had finalized.
Sir, you are on mute.
Now the relationship between the charterer and the ship owner is for a specific voyage. The relationship between Gopinath and Nishi was for a particular voyage, load cargo from Dampier and discharge at Mundra. Once the cargo is discharged, the freight is paid by the charterer to the ship owner, contract comes to an end. Deployment is for a voyage. Voyage charter is also called as spot charter. The another name for voyage charter is spot charter, SPOT charter, spot charter. The next form of non-demise charter is time charter or period charter. Over here, the deployment of the ship is not for a voyage. Deployment of the ship is for a period of time. The period of time could be anything. It could be 15 days, it could be 30 days, it could be 45 days, it could be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. The ship is handed over by the ship owner to the charterer along with the crew, along with the master and his crew. The ship is handed over from the ship owner to the charterer. Charterer takes over the delivery of the ship, and for the entire duration, the entire time charter duration, it is a charterer who commercially operates the ship. It is a charterer who decides where the ship will go, where it will load, where it will discharge. Now, let's understand how the costs and how the revenues play out in both this form of charter. Now, before we get on to the costs, let's understand systematically how do you define costs in shipping. In shipping, predominantly there are two types of costs. One is called as direct operating costs. Another is called as indirect operating costs. I again repeat. One is called as direct operating expenses, DOE. Another is called as indirect operating expenses, IOE. Direct operating expenses, I'm talking from a practitioner's point of view. Okay, from an economist's point of view, it will change. Okay, from a practitioner's point of view, these are the two costs: direct operating cost, indirect operating cost. Now, what is direct operating cost? Direct operating cost is voyage related cost. What you call it as VRC also. Voyage related costs. Costs that can be directly apportioned to the voyage. Now, what are these costs? One is a bunker cost, the fuel cost. Am I right? You can directly apportion that cost to a particular voyage. Next is port charges. Your ship is called from port A, it is called at port B. Port charges will be incurred at both this port. Now, when you say port charges, there are many sub costs in this port charges. You are having anchorage dues, port dues, inward pilotage, outward pilotage, berth hire, oil pollution cess, garbage dues, lighthouse dues, wharfage charges. So many different costs are there depending upon the type of port where your ship is calling. Again, it is voyage specific. It will vary depending upon the type of voyage your ship is deployed. The third important direct operating expenses is the canal dues. Somebody rightly said canal transit charges. The ship can transit Suez Canal, it can transit Panama Canal. Transit costs are huge costs. To the canal authorities, you have to pay money. To give you an example, if a Suezmax tanker, fully loaded Suezmax tanker, it is on a westbound transit. Westbound transit means going from Red Sea to Mediterranean, transiting the Suez Canal. The canal transit cost will be ranging $350,000 to $400,000. It's a big money. So direct operating expenses, voyage related cost, I told you the first cost is the bunker cost, which is a major component. There are two types of bunkers used on the ship. One is a fuel oil. Nowadays, it is very low sulfur fuel oil, which is mainly used for the main engine of the ship. Then you have marine diesel oil or marine gas oil, which is used for the auxiliary engines of the ship. Bunker cost is a major direct operating expenses. Next is the port expenses or port charges, load port charges, discharge port charges. Third is the canal transit charges or canal dues, as you call it. Fourth is a stevedoring expenses.
Sir, the slides.
What do you mean by?
The students are asking the slide is not changing.
No, slide is not changing because I'm narrating.
Okay.
Okay, I have not changed the slide. I am still on the same slide. You people want slides for everything, is it? You don't like my voice. Okay. Okay, don't worry. I will be showing you more slides on it. You will understand it. Classification of cost will be shown to you in the form of slides also. But pay attention. I will just type out what are the major direct operating expenses. Major direct operating expenses are bunker costs, port costs, canal dues, stevedoring costs, agency fees. The major direct operating expenses are bunker costs, port costs, canal dues, stevedoring costs. Now, what is stevedoring?
But sir,
Stevedore,
cost for stevedoring costs are included in this port cost. No, sir.
not really, not necessary. Not necessary.
Some ports like Mundra.
No, some ports it may be covered because some ports do not permit private stevedores to
Third
operate.
party.
They only say that port stevedoring facilities are available. Yes.
Like
that is-
Adani, sir.
So there are some ports, especially in some container terminals, they are very strict. They don't allow private gang people to come. So who are stevedores? Stevedores is a gang of people who actually help or who assist in the loading unloading operation of the ship. They are predominantly the crane operators, the grab operators who come on the ship and who actually assist in the loading unloading operation of the ship. And that is the reason he is called as the agency fees. You have to pay agency fees to him because he will help you, he will assist you in the loading unloading operation of the vessel. So these are some of the direct operating expenses. I repeat: bunker cost, port cost, agency fees, canal dues, and stevedoring charges. Why are this called as voyage related cost or direct operating expenses? Because this will change depending upon the type of voyage that you do. You do a voyage from Dampier to Mundra, your cost will be different. You do a voyage from Dalrymple Bay Coal Terminal to Visakhapatnam, your cost will be different. You do a voyage from Richards Bay Coal Terminal to Chennai, your cost will be different. You need to understand that these costs are variable cost depending upon the time, type, and duration of the voyage. So they are voyage related cost. Now there are some costs which will be incurred irrespective of whether the ship is performing a voyage or whether it is not performing a voyage. Now I will give a simple example. Let us say I have a tanker ship which is waiting in Singapore. It is an Aframax tanker which can load, let us say, 80,000 tons of oil. The ship is waiting in Singapore. I have a business proposal loading cargo, let us say from Vung Tau in Vietnam for discharge, let us say at Ulsan in South Korea. Now this is the voyage offer that I have. I have to move my ship from Singapore to Vietnam. From Vung Tau, I have to load crude oil, 80,000 metric tons, and discharge this cargo at Ulsan in South Korea. Now, what are the costs which I will incur if I perform the voyage? First, I will be incurring ballast bunker cost from Singapore to Vung Tau. All of you agree with me? Ballast यानी खाली. मुझे खाली जाना पड़ेगा Vung Tau तक. Am I right? Ballast water को load करके मुझे जाना पड़ेगा. तो ballast bunker cost I will be incurring from Singapore to Vung Tau. At Vung Tau, I will have
This
to
cost,
appoint an agent.
last bunkering cost is in direct expenses, sir.
All bunker costs are direct operating expenses. Okay, I'm talking from the perspective of voyage charter. Try to understand it. Be patient. Let me complete it. At Vung Tau, I will be appointing an agent who will take care of the inward-outward clearance of the vessel. Am I right? At Vung Tau port, I have to pay the port charges. I have to pay the port dues, the pilotage, the wharfage, the berth hire, everything I will have to pay. So port dues at Vung Tau is my second cost. Agency fees at Vung Tau is my another cost. It's a tanker ship, so tankers में generally stevedoring का जरूरत नहीं पड़ता है. In tankers, through pumps and pipelines, cargoes are loaded and unloaded. So stevedoring का कोई role नहीं होता है tankers में. Now this tanker ship, after loading, let us say 80,000 tons of crude oil that it has loaded from Vung Tau, it goes to Ulsan, that is South Korea, for discharge. At South Korea, again, I will have to appoint an agent who will take care of my inward-outward clearance. I will be incurring port charges at Ulsan. So if you have to sum up what is my direct operating expenses for a voyage from Vung Tau to Ulsan, first I incurred a ballast bunker cost from Singapore to Vung Tau. I incurred agency fees at Vung Tau. I incurred port costs at Vung Tau. Then I incurred laden bunker cost from Vung Tau to Ulsan. Then I incurred agency fees at Ulsan, and I incurred port cost at Ulsan. These are my costs. Now let us say that I don't find this business proposal of loading from Vung Tau to Ulsan viable or commercially feasible, and I decide to keep my ship waiting in Singapore. If I keep my ship waiting in Singapore without indulging in a voyage from Vung Tau to Ulsan, then I will not incur this voyage related cost. You agree with me? I will not incur bunker cost from Singapore to Vung Tau, laden bunker cost from Vung Tau to Ulsan. I will not incur. I have just kept my ship waiting. I have just kept my ship standing in Singapore anchorage. But does that mean I'm not going to incur any cost when I'm waiting in Singapore anchorage? Yes, still I will incur some cost. I am having 30 crew on board. I am having 30 complement on board. Can I stop paying salaries to them? No, I have to pay salaries to them. Can I stop supplying food, water, provisions, victualling? Can I stop to the ship? No. I have bought the ship after taking a loan from a financial institution. Can I stop paying EMI saying that my ship is waiting in Singapore? I'm not doing a voyage, so I cannot pay you EMI. Can I stop that payment? No, I have to still pay that money. I have to supply some basic spares for the maintenance of the ship. Can I stop giving the spares to the ship? No, I cannot stop. So there are some indirect operating expenses which is incurred by the ship on a daily basis. Now, what are these indirect operating expenses? These indirect operating expenses, there are mainly three. One is interest to the capital. Interest to the capital employed. Next is depreciation. And third, and the most important one, is the standing costs. Just look at the chat box. Interest to the capital employed. I have taken a capital loan. I need to pay interest to that. That cannot be stopped. It's an indirect operating expenses. I have to incur it every day, irrespective of whether my ship is standing, whether my ship is performing a voyage. Depreciation. What is depreciation? Permanent and gradual decrease in the value of asset due to wear and tear. It is a cost in the books of accounts. I will be incurring that cost. I can have different. I can have a straight line methodology of depreciation cost. I can have Chintu Patu is saying anchorage charges at Singapore क्या होगा? I am in outer anchorage. मैं इतना बेवकूफ नहीं हूँ inner anchorage में आके पैसा दूं. Idling, I will definitely be in outer anchorage. When outer anchorage means it is international jurisdiction, no freight, no anchorage dues is payable. If you ship inside, it is anchorage dues payable. It's a part of your direct operating expenses, which I have to apportion against some voyage, maybe the subsequent voyage that I'm going to do. So indirect operating expenses, interest on capital employed, depreciation is a cost. Now, what is standing costs? Standing costs, my friends, is the cost which will include your manning costs, it will include your maintenance cost, and it will also include your insurance cost. Because this cost will have to be paid on a daily basis. People generally misunderstand the word standing. Standing cost means it will be incurred only when the ship is standing. No, please don't be under that wrong myth. This is standing cost is nothing but a daily cost that the ship will be incurring on a daily basis. It's a fixed cost. The budgetary control system of a company, in the beginning of the financial year, they will lay down that for this particular ship, what will be your manning cost, what will be your maintenance cost, and what will be your insurance cost. And that they will calculate what will be your cost per day for the entire financial year. And that's how you get that so-called standing costs. Interest on capital employed, depreciation is a part of your capital cost. Standing cost is a part of your operating cost, but it is towards manning, maintenance, and insurance. So indirect operating expenses will be incurred on a daily basis, irrespective of whether the ship is performing a voyage or not performing a voyage. When the ship is performing a voyage, also this is getting incurred. It's not that it is not getting incurred when they are just performing a voyage. When you're performing a voyage, voyage-related cost also is incurred, and indirect operating expenses is also incurred. Now you got a very clear idea. What do you mean by indirect operating expenses and direct operating expenses? Under a voyage charter, the ship is employed for a voyage wherein the ship has to load cargo from a particular port and discharge cargo to a particular port. Under a voyage charter, all direct operating expenses, meaning bunker cost, port cost, canal dues, stevedoring, agency fees, will be borne by the owner of the ship. Why? Because under a voyage charter, the commercial management is with the ship owner. He decides what navigational route the ship has to take. And that is the reason all direct operating expenses are borne by the ship owner. Under voyage charter, all indirect operating expenses, meaning cost towards manning and maintenance, is also borne by the ship owner. Very clear? Now let's look at time charter. Under time charter, the ship's deployment is not voyage specific. The ship is employed for a duration of time with the charterer. As I told you, the duration of time could be 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years, or in exceptional cases, maybe even 10 years. Over here, the ship is handed over by the ship owner to the charterer. He delivers the ship with the crew to the charterer. Charterer takes over the commercial management of the ship after delivery of the ship. The charterer assumes the commercial management of the ship. Since the charterer takes over the commercial management of the ship, all direct operating expenses, meaning bunkers, port costs, canal dues, stevedoring, agency fees, will be borne by the charterer. But manning and maintenance is still the responsibility of the ship owner, as technical management remains with him. So all indirect operating expenses will be borne by the ship owner. This is the major difference, the methodology of deployment and how cost gets apportioned between the charterer and the ship owner under time charter and voyage charter. Have all of you understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. I again repeat, if somebody has missed out, there are mainly two types of costs: indirect operating expenses, direct operating expenses. Our focus is more on direct operating expenses because those costs directly related to a voyage. उसमें कितने costs हैं मैंने लिखा हुआ है: bunker cost, port cost, canal dues, stevedoring, agency fees. Mind it, these are not the only cost. These are not the only costs. These are some of the important costs. So these costs are voyage related costs, direct operating expenses. Indirect operating expenses are the expenses which includes your capital cost, like interest on capital employed and depreciation, and also your standing cost, which is the cost towards your manning, maintenance, and some part of your insurance. Not all insurance, some part of your insurance. When the ship is deployed under a voyage charter, the ship is employed for a specific voyage. Commercial management is with the ship owner, so all direct operating expenses is incurred by the ship owner. Under voyage charter, technical management is also with the ship owner, so all indirect operating expenses are also incurred by the ship owner. Maintenance is incurred by the ship owner. Under time charter, the ship is employed for a period of time, and when the ship is delivered to the charterer along with the crew, the charterer takes over the commercial control of the ship. So from there on, till the entire duration, till the time the ship is redelivered back to the ship owner, charterer incurs all, still the responsibility. So operating expenses. Now comes the, that is the bareboat charter. Now you understand this bareboat charter. As one textbook rightly says, barely the boat is given to the ship, to the charterer. It means that you are only giving the ship, you are only giving the asset, only the boat to the charterer, not the crew. When the charterer takes on the delivery of the ship under bareboat charter or under demise charter, he not only takes over the commercial management, he also takes over the technical management of the ship. So once the ship is deployed on a bareboat charter, the charterer not only takes over the commercial management, since he takes over the commercial management, direct operating expenses, meaning bunker cost, port cost, agency fees, stevedoring, canal dues, is borne by the charterer. Charterer also takes over the technical management of the ship, so all cost associated with the manning and maintenance is borne by the charterer again. So this is one of the reasons why you will see that deployment of a ship under a bareboat charter will never be for a short period. You will never say 15 days bareboat charter, 30 days bareboat charter, 3 months bareboat charter आपको कहीं नहीं दिखेगा. In olden days, bareboat 19 years, 20 years. But in modern days, you can sometimes see even 3-year bareboat charter. The least I have देखा 3 या 5 साल का भी मैं आजकल देख रहा हूँ. मार्केट डायनामिक है So under boat charter, the charterer takes over the ship and he kind of becomes an owner of, somebody use that, kind of an owner. Why is owner? Because he's technically managing the ship and also he's managing the ship. So that is the reason he is called as disponent owner. Disponent owner means as if he is the owner. Maybe when the charterer takes over the ship and he is commercially looking to deploy the ship in the market, he is many a times called as a disponent owner, as if he is the owner. But definitely he doesn't have the technical and manning responsibility. In bareboat charter, technically is also with the. Okay, let's look at the slides. You will understand it better now. Time charter, also called as period charter. Over here, the ship is employed on a charter for a period of or 1 year or 10 years or more. The ship owner earns a daily charter hire for the use of the ship, that is dollars per day. देखो टाइम चार्टर में शिप ओनर को रेवेन्यू क्या है? The revenue that he gets is a per day charter hire. दिन का भाड़ा in simple language. Okay, olden days in shipping it used to call it per day rental, but आजकल ये per day rental word common नहीं है. We use the word per. I have given my ship on time charter to somebody, to a charterer. I have given it for 1 year. I have fixed the ship at $15,000 per day. Every day the charterer has to pay me $15,000. I have given it for 1 year. For this 365 days from the date of delivery, the charterer is entitled, charterer is obligated to pay me irrespective of the market condition. Irrespective of the market condition. मार्केट ऊपर जाने दो नीचे नहीं है, मुझे $15,000 दिन का मिलना चाहिए. He may make 30,000 in the just make $2,000 in the market. मेरा कोई लेना देना नहीं है उस पे. He has to give me the per day charter hire. So that is what you say, dollars per day. That is the revenue. All operational cost, that is direct operating expenses, such as port cost, cost of bunkers, canal dues, etc., are borne by the charterer. Time charter mein hai. You are given the ship to the charterer. He has taken over the commercial management of the ship. So all direct operating expenses is borne by the charterer. Manning and maintenance by technical management is the ship owner, so manning and maintenance is borne by the ship owner, and cost of insurance is borne by the ship owner. अभी मुझे इधर थोड़ा आपको explain करना पड़ेगा cost of insurance. देखो, there are many insurances in shipping. Marine insurance is a subject in itself, but fundamentally there are mainly 3 insurance. First is H&M insurance. What do you call it as? Hull and machinery insurance. H&M, hull and machinery insurance. Asset insurance जिसको हम बोलते हैं. Next is war risk insurance. War risk insurance. When your ship is going into a war risk area, a area where there is a war-like situation, an area where there is a state of hostilities, then in such situation, please mute yourself. Please mute yourself.
लाइट बिल है क्या? अभी तो आया था लाइट बिल.
Tata. Friends, please mute yourself.
देख बोल दे गिर जा.
Irfan, can you please mute the candidate?
Yes, sir. I'm muting. Done.
Thank you. Where was I? Okay, right. There are mainly three types of insurance. One is H&M insurance, next is war risk insurance, and third is P&I insurance, protection and indemnity insurance. These are the fundamentally three types of insurance. H&M insurance is an asset insurance, hull and machinery insurance. जहाज का hull और machinery को आप insure करते हैं. दूसरा war risk insurance. War risk insurance, when your ship is calling a war risk area, it is entering into a place where there is a war risk situation. Okay, bomb गिर सकता है जहाज के ऊपर. तो उस सिचुएशन उस टाइम पे क्या होता है, आपका रिस्क बढ़ जाता है, तो आपको एडिशनल प्रीमियम देना पड़ता है आपके इंश्योरेंस कंपनी को. Somebody was telling additional war risk premium. It's one of the cost for the ship owner. And third is a protection and indemnity insurance, P&I club insurance. Protection and indemnity is nothing but owners club. Okay, they give you a third party insurance. Third party risk cover ko cover karta hai. For example, the ship is going into a jetty. Let us say one ship goes into Bombay jetty. It goes and hits the Bombay jetty. It spoils the crane over there. उधर का crane गिर जाता है जहाज का hit करने से. So Bombay Port Trust will have a claim on the ship. Am I right? So this is a third party. The third party is having a claim on the ship. So to cover against this possible risks, third party risks, you generally take P&I insurance. So these are the three major insurance in the maritime fraternity, maritime field. Okay. But what happens is, like insurance sector keeps on evolving. Like today you can see, you are having endowment policy, whole life policy, you are having ULIP, Jeevan Anand, Jeevan Saral, Jeevan Subhanand, so many things are there, So like that, in marine insurance also today, many types of risk covers are there. You are having kidnap and ransom cover, you are having freight, demurrage and debt freight cover, you are having charterers liability risk cover, you are having different types of covers. But fundamentally, insurance is this three: H&M insurance, war risk insurance, and P&I insurance. So when I'm saying, friends, over here, cost of insurance,
Bhavin, please check with
when I'm saying cost of insurance,
unmute. Bhavin, please check with your mic. Otherwise, I'll remove it completely. Bhavin Devnath Chauhan, your mic is continuously getting unmuted. Please check with your mic.
okay, thank you. So when I am saying cost of insurance is borne by the ship owner, I only mean is the H&M insurance. So don't get confused. Okay, it is H&M insurance is borne by the ship owner. Now H&M insurance kaun lega? Whoever is owner of the ship, only he can take H&M insurance. Am I correct? मेरे पास एक फ्लैट है, मैं इसको भाड़े पे दे रहा हूँ. Can the tenant take an insurance? Very less likely. It's not that he cannot take, less likely. The owner can only take an insurance for the asset that he owns. Okay. So when I say cost of insurance over here, friends, remember I'm talking of H&M insurance. So all three form of charter, whether it is time charter, bareboat charter, or voyage charter, H&M insurance will be always taken by a ship owner. Most of the cases. Some exceptional cases may, and H&M underwriter may even permit a charterer to take an H&M insurance, but uska procedures काफी complicated hai. By and large, voyage charter, time charter, bareboat charter, H&M insurance will be taken by a ship owner only. Okay, थोड़ा सा मैंने insurance में lecture ही दे दिया. You will study it in greater depth in shipping practice and second year when you get into marine insurance. Okay, charter hire is usually paid in advance. When the ship is deployed on time charter, charter hire generally you collect in advance. 1 month advance, 15 days advance is what you generally collect. Okay. Now let's look at the next slide, that is voyage charter. Under voyage charter, the ships are committed to carry cargo from load port to discharge port on a voyage basis. Ship owners earns freight for carrying the agreed quantity of cargo, that is dollars per ton or lump sum. Okay. Voyage charter, I told you the deployment is for a specific voyage And what is the revenue the ship owner earns? He earns freight. Now, freight you can express on a per ton basis or you can express on a lump sum basis. Per ton basis, matlab $10 per ton will be my freight. So if you have carried 50,000 tons of cargo, 50,000 into 10, 500,000 is the freight. If you have carried 60,000 tons of cargo, 60,000 into 10, 600,000 is your freight. That is one way of doing the business. Another way is that you just give a lump sum freight. For doing a voyage from loading A port to discharging at B port, I need a lump sum freight of $750,000. This is another way of expressing it. 750,000 is the freight that is payable. Okay, irrespective of what quantity is loaded. That is called as lump sum freight. All operational costs such as port cost, cost of bunkers and canal dues are borne by the ship owner. Voyage charter mein it is a ship owner. Manning and maintenance of the ship is borne by the ship owner. Again, technical management is with the ship owner, so borne by the ship owner. And cost of insurance is also borne by the ship owner. Okay, H&M insurance, as I told you, when I say cost of insurance, don't cover the entire ambit of insurance. I mean specifically H&M insurance. Freight is paid upon completion of discharge of cargo. Generally, freight आप कब पे करते हो? Cargo discharge होने के बाद. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है. You have concept called as advance freight. You have concept called as freight before breaking bulk. Okay. During the course of your study, you will learn all these terms. Okay. But generally, after discharge of cargo, freight is realized by the ship owner. Now, the third form of charter, that is bareboat charter. The ship owner employs a ship on a very long-term charter, that is 10 years, 15 years or more. Ship owner earns a daily charter hire for his ship. All operational costs such as port cost and cost of bunkers are borne by the charterer. Charterer incurs this cost. Manning and maintenance of the ship is borne by the charterer. Again, the technical management is with the charterer in case of a bareboat charter, so it's borne by the charterer. But cost of insurance is borne by the ship owner. As I said, cost of insurance is an H&M insurance. Okay. Over here, P&I insurance generally is taken by the charterer. Okay. War risk insurance is taken by the charterer because he's controlling the ship. It is not a commercial charter, but a kind of financial arrangement. Now, here comes the key point, okay, which I need to tell you. What is the difference between BBC and BBDC? Okay, I told you there are two types of charter, non-demised charter, demised charter. Non-demised charter के अंदर you have voyage charter and time charter. Under demised charter, you are having bareboat charter. अभी bareboat charter में भी there is a two possibility. Bareboat charter, that is plain bareboat charter. Another is bareboat demised charter. BBC, BBDC, bareboat demised charter. अभी इन दोनों में क्या फर्क है? Okay, बहुत छोटा सा फर्क है. You need to understand this. Under a bareboat demised charter, there is a demise clause. यानी जो एग्रीमेंट है, उस एग्रीमेंट में एक क्लॉज होता है, उस क्लॉज को हम बोलते हैं डिमाइस क्लॉज. As per that demise clause, if both the parties, that is the ship owner and the charterer, they both collectively decide to invoke this clause, they both collectively decide to implement that particular clause, what happens is, after a period of time, after the bareboat charter period is over, the ownership of the ship changes from the ship owner to the charterer. Okay, the ship is not only given technically and commercially to the charterer, even the ownership is transferred to the charterer after getting a lump sum money. Okay, I'll tell you how does this operate. You see, a good example I can think of is, you know, when the markets are very good, when the shipping markets are doing very well, you will see a lot of financial institutions, a lot of banks also investing in shipping. They buy ships. Bank of Nova Scotia, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan. You know, in that, when the markets are wonderful, they were buying ships from Korean yards, from the Chinese yards. They invested in ships. The ships got delivered. Okay. Once it got delivered, do you think these bankers can operate the ship? No, they are not in the business of shipping. Am I right? They are into business of finance. So they don't know how to operate the ship. So what they used to do, they used to commercially and technically hand over the ship to somebody else. So what they used to do, they used to enter into a bareboat demise charter arrangement. So let us say a bank has got a ship. What he will do is that he will hand over the ship on a bareboat demise charter, let's say for 15 years, 15 साल के लिए. और वो बोलेगा ये 15 साल में मुझे पर डे $25,000 चाहिए. So $25,000 is payable to this charterer, to this owner, who is a banker, on a daily basis, irrespective of the market condition. So the charterer takes over the technical management, he takes over the commercial management of the ship, and he keeps on paying the charter hire to the ship owner. Okay, under bareboat demise charter. Now, after 15 years, what? After 15 years, technically, this charterer has to hand over the ship to the banker, but banker is now not interested to have the ship. Why? Because the depreciated value of the asset in his books of account is zero. He has been earning $25,000 every day, 365 days in last 15 years. Every day he has been incurring this money. He has been earning this money, I'm sorry. So his return on investment is fully utilized. Usko jitna return chahiye tha uska investment liye wo usko mil gaya hai. So what he does is that he, the banker who is the owner and the charterer, they invoke the demise clause and the ownership is transferred from the charterer, from the ship owner to the charterer. The banker, the ship owner, gives the ownership to the charterer who has been commercially and technically operating the ship. That is when the BBC translates into a BBDC, bareboat demise charter. You know, I was shocked. In one of the seminar I was attending, one gentleman said bareboat demise charter means the ship is put on bareboat till the demise of the ship. जहाज जब तक चलेगा till the demise, ये जहाज bareboat charter में चलेगा, उसको हम bareboat demise charter बोलते हैं. Absolutely rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. These are all lot of wrong notions. People who don't theoretically understand, and they just make these kind of loose statements. Bareboat demise charter basically means expiry of the bareboat charter, and under a demise clause, the ownership changes from charterer to the ship owner. That is what you mean as bareboat demise charter. Okay. I hope all of you understood these three terms: voyage charter, time charter, bareboat charter, and how costs are apportioned between them. Now look at this slide. This slide explains it all. Okay, how is the cost apportionment done between ship owner and the charterer for different types of charter? Okay, just 1 second. My battery is gone low. Let me just.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So friends, now this is one of the most important slide which gives you the classification of cost. A definite question in your exam paper, okay? I can tell you that. And which exactly tells you how cost is apportioned between a ship owner and a charterer for different types of charter. Okay, now let's look at the first cost. That is capital cost. What is capital cost? Dividends to equity, interest on capital. Capital cost, whoever has bought the ship, he will incur this cost. There is no doubt about it. Am I right? So whether it is voyage charter, whether it is time charter, whether it is bareboat charter, all this cost will be borne by the ship owner. Okay. Next comes the operating cost. Now, when you say operating cost, this is cost towards the manning and maintenance. Okay. Crew costs, stores. You may be knowing the ship has to be given lot of store items, polypropylene ropes, marine paints, okay, lube oil, then charts and navigational papers. All this will have to be given to the ship. These are all store items. These are all to be supplied to the ship. Regular maintenance. For regular maintenance, you have to give a lot of equipment, lot of spares to the ship. So this is all part of your operating cost. Whoever is handling the ship technically will incur this cost. So under voyage charter, it is borne by the ship owner. Under time charter, it is borne by the ship owner. But under bareboat charter, technical management, manning management is by the charterer. So this is borne by the charterer. Periodic maintenance cost. Okay, these are your major repairs. Dry dock. Like all of you may be knowing, there is a statutory requirement to dry dock the vessel. What do you mean by dry dock? See, the ship is always on sea. It is exposed to sea water. Okay, it is something which is made of steel and it is always exposed to salty water. So there is a possibility of corrosion. So what they do is that as per the statutory requirement, the ship has to be taken to a dry dock. Dry dock basically means the place which is dry, and you can actually inspect the bottom of the vessel. Bottom of the vessel, not when the vessel is in water. Bottom of the vessel when the ship is in a dry area, okay, where there is no water. So you can do the inspection of the bottom, you can do the repairs and all. So it is a mandatory, it is a statutory requirement. Generally in 5 years time, at least 2 times you have to do a statutory dry dock. That is a requirement, wherein there is a complete overhaul for the ship. The automation, the maintenance, everything is accelerated when the ship is in dry dock, so that the performance of the ship is better post dry dock. Okay, so it's a periodic maintenance. Periodically you have to plan as a part of your preventive repair strategy. You will have to plan your dry docks. Major repairs, special survey costs. Sometimes there are some big time maintenance we'll have to do. Now sometimes your ship may be going to a port where you need a helipad. So if you have to install a helipad on your deck area, it involves huge cost. Then after that, you have to call the classification surveyor to come on board, certify that the helipad is as per international standards, having the adequate strength to hold a chopper and all. So these are big time maintenance costs. So who will incur this cost? Depending upon the type of charter. If it is voyage charter, ship owner; time charter, ship owner; if it is bareboat charter, it is the charterers. Voyage costs, the voyage related cost, I need not tell you, the fuel cost, port charges, canal dues. Whoever is commercially managing the ship incurs this cost. Under voyage charter, it is a ship owner. Under time charter, it is a charterer, and under bareboat charter also it is the charterer. Okay. Finally, the cargo handling cost, that is cost towards loading, stowing, and discharging costs. Okay, whoever is commercially managing generally incurs this cost. Under voyage charter, I've deliberately used the word generally ship owners. Okay, because what happens is when a ship is deployed on voyage charter, you can insert a term called as FIO terms. FIO terms means free in and out terms. So under free in and out terms, though the ship is on voyage charter, charterer will be incurring the stevedoring cost, loading unloading cost. But वैसा होता है, हमेशा नहीं होता, कभी कभार होता है. अगर वैसा टर्म नहीं है, ऐसा FIO terms नहीं है, तो ship owner will incur the loading and unloading cost because it is a commercial management cost. Under time charter, commercial management is with the charterer, so borne by the charterer, and under bareboat charter, it is definitely the charterer. So friends, if you really look at the classification, you will see capital cost is wholly by the ship owner. Operating costs, that is technical cost, manning and maintenance. Under voyage charter, time charter is the ship owner. Under bareboat charter is the charterer. Voyage costs, under voyage charter, cargo handling and voyage cost is by the ship owner. Under time charter and bareboat charter, both times it is the charterer. So if you quickly see, voyage charter maximum, in fact, everything is borne by the ship owner, and under bareboat charter, everything is borne by the charterer, and under time charter, Commercial expenses, when the commercial management के हिसाब से voyage cost and cargo handling is borne by the charterer, rest is borne by the ship owner. Is it very clear? Is the topic very clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely sure.
Marketing cost, the marketing cost will be handled by whom?
Operating cost यानी कौन सा? Technical operating cost or direct operating cost? What are you saying?
Overhead marketing cost.
Huh?
Here in the textbook, the table of classification of cost, the exercise is given where they have asked management and marketing cost and the overhead cost is borne by whom?
That will depend on the type of charter, no? That will depend. I'm going to give you that as homework. Wait. Okay. Wait.
Okay.
I'll come back on that. Okay, friends, have all of you understood this classification of cost? Is there any doubts? I'm
Sir,
going
I
to
have a
ask questions
question.
now. Please. I'm expecting questions.
Sir, could you please explain a bit about the insurance cost in bareboat charter and why is it still ship owner's responsibility?
I'll tell you. See, as I told you, when I'm talking of insurance cost, what I fundamentally meant was the H&M insurance cost, hull and machinery insurance cost. Okay, that is what I meant. I made it very clear. Now, who can take H&M insurance? Generally, the person who owns the hull and machinery.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Though when the ship is on bareboat charter also, it is the ship owner who takes the hull and machinery insurance, generally. Because nowadays, most of the London underwriters give permission for charterer also to take a hull and machinery insurance. But in that case, they have to take a no objection certificate from the ship owner. Or ship owner has to permit the insurance underwriters to permit the charter to take. So that is an exception which is being drawn in the insurance market. But fundamentally, whoever owns the hull and machinery, he has to take the insurance. In bareboat charter, the ownership of hull and machinery still remains with the ship owner. So fundamentally, it is his duty to take the H&M insurance. But the other insurance is related to the activity of the ship. Sending the ship to war risk area, it is something which is decided by the charterer. So war risk insurance generally is taken by the charterer. The charterer actually is operating the ship technically and commercially. So third party insurance, again, the charterer only generally takes. So when you speak of insurance cost in a bareboat charter, it is actually split between the ship owner and charterers. But if at all any insurance cost has to be borne by the ship owner, it has to be the H&M insurance only. Okay.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Sir, especially for a time charter, this thing, a lot of time for a PNI insurance, the charterer's name is also included in the PNI insurance.
Very
Charterers, even the technical managers, the crewing managers.
Correct. Very good. You are absolutely right.
Owner is paying for the PNI calls.
Yeah, that is basically because under your time charter party, you are supposed to hand over the ship with a fully insured ship only you can hand over to the charterer.
But does the owner, owner and charterer, the technical manager, do they share the PNI call just because?
That depends on what terms you have finalized. According to me, the P&I insurance is always borne by the ship owner. It's a part of his standing cost, and he will try to cover it up in his charter hire. Okay, whenever he's finalizing the charter hire, he will definitely try to cover up his all costs towards manning, maintenance, and insurance. Am I right? Then only there's a sense in putting the ship on time charter. That is what he will be trying. So in P&I insurance, this concept of writing down the charterer's name, this is something which has just started maybe a decade back. And the reason being that when the ship is deployed on time charter, it is the charterer who is sending the ship to different ports. Are you getting it? So if an accident happens, there has to be apportionment of costs. So it is very important to bring the charterer also in the ambit of the insurance policy, because sometimes he has to bear some part of the costs. That's how the name of the charterer now is getting included in many of the P&I policies.
So this bareboat charter, you
Hmm.
said nowadays it is for even 3 years, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
Yeah. So this is again something first time I'm hearing about this bareboat. I also was under impression it is for the long term, say 10 years, 15 years or so. Now, sir, just wanted to understand now if XYZ has taken my vessel for 3 years and my technical management also is with them. Is there any hidden clause where I can be assured that this maintenance part will be taken care because वो तो अपना चलाएगा 3 साल नया ship लेके मेरा and then he can misuse machineries and end of the day hands over to me in a state which where I have to pay a lot of money for my maintenance part later on.
Under a bareboat charter, generally you have a clause wherein the owner has a permission to inspect the ship at regular intervals. And depending on the inspection, he can assess what is the condition of the ship. Whenever the ship is given on time charter or bareboat charter, there is always a written rule that the ship has to be returned back in the condition in which it was delivered with a normal wear and tear. Now, what do you mean by normal wear and tear? Normal wear and tear, it's a very subjective term. Am I right? Your ship is trading in Atlantic Ocean, your ship is trading in Indian Ocean. The extent of wear and tear will vary. So that is where a little bit of ambiguity comes in. Okay, but giving a ship on bareboat charter for a period of 3 years is more of a commercial compulsion, because sometimes the markets may be very bad. The owner may be having a severe working capital problem, so he may not be having sufficient money to maintain the vessel, necessitating him to put the ship on bareboat charter even for a shorter duration. So commercial compulsions ke chakkar mein, sometimes you give your ships even for short duration on bareboat charter. Now, whether there is a hidden agreement on what kind of a technical management will be done or who will be the technical manager, that all will depend on what terms has been negotiated between the charter and the ship owner.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Or before I start raising questions?
Sir, can be chartering done for number of voyages?
Sorry?
Number of voyages, sir. Can be chartering done for number of voyages?
Yes.
Like how?
That is called as consecutive voyages.
Okay.
It can be done. Yeah, friends, shall I ask you some questions? All of you are okay? 5 more minutes, I will extend the session. Are you people comfortable?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will call out the name. You will have to unmute yourself, okay? Don't worry, I'm not going to penalize you. It is just for fun because there is no other way, otherwise I can interact. Okay. So my first question goes to Yukta Vyas. Yukta Vyas, can you unmute? Yukta Vyas. Yukta Vyas. Not opening. Okay, I'll put the question to the next person. Mr. Johin Emmanuel. Can you unmute? Johin Emmanuel.
Students, please respond. Are you there or not?
Irfan, I hope you are not mute them, no?
No, no. It's all on.
It's all open now. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I will ask one more person. Otherwise, I will not have this exercise. I will ask, okay, Adira Ramachandran.
Yes, sir.
Adira Ramachandran. Thank you for responding. Okay. I will ask you a question, okay? Just answer it. The slide is before you only. I have not closed the slide.
Okay.
Fuel cost in case of a time charter is borne by? Fuel cost in case of a time charter is borne by
Ship owner.
sorry.
Ship owner.
Fuel cost in case of a time charter is not borne by the ship owner, it is borne by the charterer. Because when a ship is handed over on time charter, the charterer takes over the control of the ship, commercial management is with him, direct operating expenses is borne by the charterer. Look at the
Okay.
slide, voyage cost, fuel cost, time charter is borne by the charterer. Okay.
Okay.
Next question, don't worry, relax. Next question, Vaibhav Varadkar. Can you unmute? He's not willing to unmute. Okay. Nanda Leela. Can you unmute?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, Nanda Leela. Thank you for unmuting. You tell me dry dock expenses in case of a bareboat charter is borne by?
Charter, sir.
It is borne by charterers. Absolutely right. When you say bareboat charter, it should immediately strike to you that most of it is going to be borne by the charterer. Absolutely right. Saurabh Dige. Saurabh Dige. Saurabh. Okay, Vishal Kolte. Vishal Kolte. Acha, anybody wants to raise hands can raise hands.
Yeah, sir. You can ask question. You can ask question.
Very good. Chalo. Mohammed has raised his hand. Thank you, Mohammed. Mohammed, I will put it in a different way.
Okay.
Depreciation. It is something which is not there in the slide. Mohammed.
Yes, sir.
Depreciation cost in case of a bareboat charter will be borne by?
Ship owner only.
Ship owner. Very good, Mohammed. Why? Because it's a part of your capital cost. Capital cost, irrespective of what is the form of charter, will be borne by the ship owner. Very good. Next question goes to Ghanshyam Singh. Mr. Ghanshyam Singh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The cost towards supply of stores in case of, that is cost that is paid to purchase the stores and supply to the ship in case of a time charter is borne by? Stores क्या cost है? Technical cost है कि commercial cost है? पहले
Sir, can I speak? Sir, can I speak?
हाँ बोलो.
Owner, it will be ship owner. It will be borne by ship owner.
Ship owner. अच्छा दो लोगों ने बोल दिया. अच्छा, can I speak? It was not Ghanshyam. It was somebody else. Okay, no problem.
Yes, sir. I am Sajal Kumar, sir.
Sajal Kumar. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Ghanshyam ji, you are right. Very good. Now, Sajan Kumar, you said, right?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Sajan Kumar, I will ask you a different question. Sajan Kumar, let us say dunnage cost.
Yes.
Dunnage. DUNNAGE. Dunnage cost in case of a time charter will be borne by?
Dunnage cost?
In case of a time charter will be borne by?
Sir, it depends.
I think, sir, it is borne by ship owner. Ship owner. Sir.
Yes, sir. Ship owner.
Ship owner.
Sir,
yes,
but it depends on the terms.
Charterer.
Okay, I have put it in the chat. Sajan Kumar ji, bhi dhyan se suno.
Yeah.
What is dunnage? First, you should know that. Okay, dunnage. If you know, I'll still tell you. Dunnage is a material used for packing or segregating the cargo on board. Am I right?
Yes.
समझ लो आपके पास एक कार्गो कंपार्टमेंट है, उस कार्गो कंपार्टमेंट में आपको वुड चिप्स लोड करना है और निकल और लोड करना है, तो आप लोग क्या करोगे? बीच में एक प्लाई मारोगे कार्गो होल्ड का, तो उस कार्गो होल्ड के बीच में आप प्लाई मारोगे, एक जगह पे आप वुड चिप्स लोड करोगे, दूसरे में निकल और लोड करोगे. उस प्लाई को हम लोग डनेज बोलते हैं शिपिंग में. Dunnage is a cargo related expense.
Charterer.
Under time charter, cargo related expenses is by charterer. Very good. Okay, anybody who is raising hands further? Vikash Kumar. Vikash Kumar ji. Now listen to
Yes,
this.
sir. Yes, sir.
Listen to this very carefully. Additional war risk premium in case of a bareboat charter will be borne by
Charter, sir.
charterers. Very good. Additional war risk premium, why it is borne by the charterer? Because it's the charterer who decides to take the ship to a war risk area, so it will be borne by the
Charter,
charterer.
yes, sir.
Absolutely right. Now, anybody more wants to raise hands? I have one last question before we wind up. Anybody wants to raise hands? Okay, Sanjeev Tiwari ji.
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, अभी क्वेश्चन ध्यान से सुनना. Fresh water expenses in case of a time charter will be borne by fresh water expenses in case of a time charter will be borne by
Charter, sir.
Ship owner.
So ship owner, because operating cost.
Owner.
Charter.
Ship owner, sir.
ship owner, charterer. A lot of people have raised hands. Thank you for it. I will explain this freshwater expenses. Okay. Some of you are saying charterer, many of you are saying ship owner. Logically, किसके लिए freshwater होता है?
Crew members, maintenance crew
It is
members.
mainly for the crew. Am I right? Crew के लिए, for the domestic purpose, they cannot use salt water, so they have to use fresh water. And it is for this purpose that you need fresh water. So fresh water, generally most of the ships are having, modern ships are having freshwater generators. So when the ship is sailing, at that time they generate the water and they use it. That is the norm nowadays. But sometimes some ports may you have to supply fresh water and some basic cost is incurred for it. Yes, as you rightly said, it is a crew related cost. So under time charter, it is definitely to be borne by the ship owner because manning and maintenance is the responsibility of the ship owner. But you should remember that fresh water is also important for the boilers of the vessel. The boilers of a ship regularly needs to have a feed of fresh water. Okay, so you will see in most of the time charter parties, it will say that the cost of the fresh water has to be borne by the ship owner, but however, water which is required for the boiler's use will have to be borne by the charterer. Okay, so there is one catch over here. Some part of the freshwater cost has to be borne by the charterer, which is a part of the boiler's use, because boiler's use will depend on the running of the ship. And crew's use is definitely the responsibility of the ship owner. Okay, I've just tried to make you feel to get a feel about the subject. I know that in one session, all of you, especially those set of candidates who are attending or understanding shipping for the first time or who are freshers, you cannot grasp it in the very first session, but try to understand the concepts of the subjects and then on this particular subject. I hope all of you have more or less understood what is cost of shipping. As one lady was rightly saying, in your study material, there is an exercise sheet wherein different costs in shipping is given, and they have told you to classify between charterer and ship owner. Do that exercise, talk to your friends. I could see that some of you were exchanging link of WhatsApp and all in the chat box. So share the answers in the WhatsApp and then have some fun. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions you have, or shall I wind up for the day? So no more questions. Okay. All right. Thank you, friends. I hope you had a nice session. Next session, I will be finishing the revenue part of shipping. I was expecting that to complete today. Unfortunately, I went a little slow. So I will complete the revenue part, and then we will discuss a very interesting topic, that is shipping market cycle. Okay. With that note, thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening. Bye.
Thank you, sir.